G'day, welcome again to Dateline. I'm George Negus. Tonight, Delhi's contentious Commonwealth Games. Despite allegations of corruption and a job half done, the athletes, including ours, in just over a month will bunk down in luxury. Outside, the Games workers slave for less than $1 a day. Something different? Well, after plenty of hullabaloo and carry-on, with just 4 weeks until the much-debated Commonwealth Games kick off in Delhi, claims and denials of corruption and mishandling persist. The most recent and possibly the most serious setback to the Games was a report this week of an outbreak of dengue fever. The Games, of course, were meant to showcase modern India with all its promise of burgeoning wealth and opportunity. But as Yalda Hakim reports, there are many who argue that the billions spent on this sporting extravaganza could have been put to much better use.
The scramble is on to get the Games venues completed in time for the opening ceremony. Despite weeks of corruption allegations and exposés of building frauds, the head of the Games Committee, Suresh Karmadi, says everything will be okay.
We've got money for infrastructure, we've got money for the Games, we've got money for training for the Games, and it's going to be a beautiful Games.
While Indian officials have rejected my request to visit unfinished stadiums, they're more than happy to take me here. This is where the athletes will live for the 2 weeks of the Games. This is a display of the new India, an emerging superpower with a thriving economy and growing middle class. These lavish apartments will sell for up to $1 million each when the athletes have left. But outside, there is a very different India. This is Durga. She says she's spent more than a year working on game sites around Delhi. यहाँ कितना पैसा आपको देते हैं काम करने के लिए? मैं साहब पेट पाल रहा हूँ, 60-70 रुपये देते हैं. 80 rupees is less than $1 a day, and that's drawn her and her family here from a village on the outskirts of Delhi. She knows she will never set foot in the apartments. Simply feeding the hungry is her main aim. आपके कितने बच्चे हैं? परिवार कितना है? 2 बच्चे. अब पूरे बच्चे को खवाते हैं, जो अपने कारण लाख हो गया तो भी खाते हैं अपने हाथ से. वो क्या करें, काम ना करें तो क्या खा लें? यहाँ ऊपर वाला रखता है, कौन रखता है? Durga's not unique. There are more than 400 million Indians who survive on less than $1 a day. Millions of them living in slums with no access to clean water and toilets. The government doesn't want its international visitors to see these slums, so thousands have been demolished and the residents banished to the outskirts of the city.
While we develop, while we have a Commonwealth Games, while India is going into the 21st century and becoming a global power, the reality of Indian society must be put forward before the world. अपन को मेंबर बढ़ाना है, अपनी ताकत बढ़ाना है, ताकि कल गवर्नमेंट अपने लिए कुछ घर कुछ देवे, लेकिन अपने
Vinod Shetty is a lawyer and activist who works with some of India's poorest.
The world cannot see India as a global power without understanding that there is a vast section which have been marginalized, and this section works in the slums, and this section are the working poor in any urban center. So the government's attempt to just push the slums out of the city is totally, a very short-sighted kind of a policy, which is very damaging.
Vinod took me on a tour of Asia's largest slum, Dharavi. It's in Mumbai, India's biggest city, and 1 million people eke out a living here. Arif is 10 years old. He too will probably never see the inside of a luxury apartment. For him and his friends, the slum is home and playground. But it's also a means of employment. He's a rag picker, one of hundreds who work, sifting thousands of tons of rubbish to sell what can be recycled. Some people call this slum the green lungs of Mumbai. Recycling Indian style means reusing up to 80% of the city's waste. The rag pickers even burn the covering off copper wire so it can be reused.
All the people who are working in waste are contributing towards, the movement to save the planet, and their contribution is unknown because they themselves don't even know what they're doing, because they are doing it out of their desperation due to them belonging to the poorest of poor.
और वो पैसा जब मिलता है उसे क्या खरीदते हो? अपने माँ बाप को देते हो वो पैसा?
थोड़ा माँ बाप को देता हूँ, थोड़ा कुछ खरीद के खाता हूँ.
Arif lives down this alley under a bridge with his parents and brothers. Arif's mother Shehnaz says she would prefer her son to go to school and get an education rather than work. But education is a luxury that she can't afford.
आपको आरिफ के लिए क्या चाहते हैं? उसको तो मैं पढ़ाई चाहती हूँ.
और तुम्हें जब बड़ा हो गए तो क्या चाहते हो कि क्या हो?
अच्छा.
क्या चाहते हो कि क्या बड़ा बन के डॉक्टर बनना है, इंजीनियर बनना है, क्या करना चाहते हो? इंस्पेक्टर? इंस्पेक्टर क्यों बनना चाहते हो?
उसमें खास बात है.
खास बात क्या है?
बड़ा को मुझे लोग को पकड़ना चाहता हूँ.
Arif tells me that his younger brother Samir pleads to work with him collecting rubbish. But Arif says the risks to his brother's health and the chance of injury are too great. लेकिन तुम्हें अगर चोट पड़े तो?
मुझे लगे तो मैं सही भी कर लूँगी. छोटा नहीं कर पाया.
Vinod Shetty says there has been no official acknowledgement that the work the boys do is risking their health.
There are major occupational hazards in doing this work. A lot of chemicals which are being released, toxins which are entering their body, and this is nowhere documented.
Any health assessment seems unlikely, and it would need to include their playtime as well. 19-year-old Lakshmi watches Bollywood films every chance she gets. And like young Arif, she also has a dream for the future, to watch her Bollywood idols at a cinema.
हाँ, वो तो ऐसा लगता है कि थिएटर कैसा होगा, सब लोग जाते हैं आते हैं, इतना पैसा बोलते हैं कि 400-500 गया, ऐसा हमारा भी दिल होता है, लेकिन अभी बोलते हैं औरत लोग थिएटर में नहीं जाना चाहिए, उतना हैसियत भी नहीं है अपने पास.
Lakshmi's husband won't allow her to work, so every morning she waits for him to leave home before she sets off for her own job, packing paper waste to be recycled.
लेकिन यही है कि झूठ बोल के मजबूरी की वजह से चली जाती हूँ.
Our feeling is that you cannot hide poverty, and India is poor, and that nobody can hide.
Come on, देख लो, ये पोजीशन है हमारे भारत की. देख लो हमारा देश इस पोजीशन में है.
These Dharavi tannery workers wonder if they too will one day see the spoils from India's economic growth.
सुनो ये तो बड़ा अरे भाई ये कितने में बिकता है कहाँ बिकता है हम लोग हमारा वतन छोड़ते हैं इधर आते हैं मजबूरी है हमारी अब वो क्या 40 में बिकता है क्या 50 में बिकता है इसके हमारे को कोई मालूम.
They tell me that they've travelled here from all over the country seeking a better life. Here in Dharavi, they can earn between $2 and $3 a day in unsafe conditions.
मास्क क्या तकलीफ तो होगी ना बीमारी होगी बुखार आएगी सर्दी होगी बहुत कुछ होगा कुछ नहीं कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं धनी के काम वालों की तरफ से हमको कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं मिलती ऐसे हम काम करो और ऐसे निकल लो.
This would have been a fantastic opportunity for India to have put this on the table, that while we have sportsmen, while we have athletes, we should also look after, we should invite NGOs, we should invite global trusts or foundations to come and work in India, and they can come out with some solutions for all the problems which are facing Indian society.
In Delhi, Games organisers insist that everything is going according to plan.
Don't read the press, everything will be okay. Don't look at the television, everything will be on track.
But India has blown its Commonwealth Games budget, overspending by tens of millions of dollars. And according to a recent Indian report, has been diverting money from schemes to fight poverty to further fund Delhi's games. Head of the Games Committee, Suresh Karmadi, denies this.
Delhi has the potential to have the best games ever, even better than Melbourne.
For Vinod Shetty, though, the Commonwealth Games represents a missed opportunity.
The measurement of a good democracy is the way we treat our poor and marginalized people, not the way the size of our stadiums or the quality of the AstroTurf or the quality of the tennis courts. Just by showing the most beautiful parts of the city and trying to put curtains in front of slums is not going to solve the problem.
Yelda Hakim filming and reporting in Delhi, and right now Yelda's here with us in the Dateline studio. Yelda, good to see you. I love that little kid.
I know, he was my favourite too.
What was his name?
Arif.
He said, I wrote it down, he said, I haven't but good days and my bad days. He's how old?
10 years old.
Fantastic. I actually wrote down what your NGO guide said. He said the measurement of a good democracy is the way we treat our poor and marginalised people, not the size of our stadiums and the quality of the AstroTurf. That just about sums up this dichotomy, this dilemma that you were actually reporting about, isn't it? That while all that was going on in the slums, they're trying to build a Commonwealth Games stadium, for goodness sake.
That's right, George. Well, a group of NGOs held a press conference in Delhi this week and they described the event as the most blatant exercise in corruption in modern-day India.
Other than that, quite a good effort.
Yeah, that's right.
The most blatant?
The most blatant in modern-day India. They said it would take the Indian people up to 25 years to repay the Games, which are being dubbed the most expensive in history.
So they'd have to be asking themselves really deep down whether it was really worth all the trouble.
That's right. I mean, it's costing $2 to $10 billion. Funds have been siphoned out of money for poverty-stricken people to fund the Games. So
siphoning money off.
That's right, that's right. The government's now looking at launching an inquiry into this to get the money back from funds that moved from welfare schemes to fund the Games.
It certainly smacks of a misdirected priority, that's for sure, but it is going to go ahead, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. While NGOs have called for the people to come out onto the streets and boycott the events, I never got the sense that that would actually happen or that they would get called off. When I met the head of the organising committee, Suresh Karmadi, in Delhi, he was quite optimistic, and while he admitted that India things were going slow, that they'd eventually get there, and this is the way India operates.
Well, a month to go, we'll find out, for the athletes' sake at least. But thanks for that, well done. And the world's your oyster, where to next?
Well, lots of stories to tell, looking forward to getting back out there.
Good stuff, well done.